Welcome to the Awakened Parent Project, conscious conversations, empowered parenting with me, Susan Dolci. It's time to open our hearts and our minds to what it means to be a parent, exploring and expanding the ways we communicate, validate, and show up daily for our kids. With a parent-centric focus, you learn to become more present, a better active listener, more reflective, more engaged, and mutually empowered. Parenting isn't about perfection. It's about presence, honesty, self-compassion, unconditional love, and conscious communication. The Awakened Parent Project starts now. Susan Dolci. I'm a certified parent coach with the Jai Institute for Parenting, and it's my hope that you'll find this a safe space to journey on a path of both practical and spiritual exploration. From the time my first daughter was born in 1994, it's a long time ago, I've been driven by a vision where children are nurtured both physically and spiritually by adults who are present, grounded, and empowered. I believe that conscious communication, self-exploration, and self-forgiveness are the tools that enable parents to foster deep, lasting connections with their children. Parenting isn't about perfection. It's about presence, honesty, self-compassion, unconditional love, and conscious communication. And today we are talking about the power of play in our parenting. My guest today is parent support specialist Kirsten Nottleson. Kirsten has worked extensively with parents, preschool staff, teen parents, and families experiencing substance abuse issues as a parent educator and consultant in Austin, Texas for 28 years. She's been using the hand-in-hand parenting approach in her own family for 20 years, as eternally grateful to have these support tools during the teen years as her boys grow into young men. All of her work is based on the principles of the hand-in-hand approach, which she believes to be nothing short of a peace movement in action. I have read that book, and it is phenomenal, and I think every parent needs to read this book. Anyway, we will get there. You can read about the hand-in-hand parenting approach in the book, Listen, 5 Simple Tools to Meet Your Everyday Challenges, and that was authored by Patty Whipfler and Tasha Shore. Kirsten, after that long introduction, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Susan. I'm so glad to be here, and I love what you're doing with parents.
Well, thank you. I love what you're doing with parents. We can just have a mutual love fest here. But so today we're talking specifically about the power of play, like the whole hand-in-hand parenting thing. I'd like to talk with you a little bit about that too, because it really does break down. I think every parent struggles into like 5 steps, right? Like not steps, concepts that will, without a doubt, change how you parent and change the dynamic in your family. So anyway, hopefully we'll get a little time to talk about that. But play, I have just learned, going through my Jai certification process, it was our second to the last module that we did. And so we had to read Playful Parenting by Larry Cohen. And I was blown away by that book. And so then I had to seek out another expert who could talk about play. So I found you. I'm so happy. So how did you come to bring play into the work that you do with parents?
Oh, thank you. Okay. Well, so I was a parent educator before I became a parent. As you said, I worked in some preschools, and I had been fortunate enough to be at a preschool that really believed in lots and lots of training. I had my early childhood education degree, but also they just sent me to whatever training I wanted to go to, which is really unusual and fortunate for me. I got hours and hours and hours every year, and did this certification and that training and this program, and was so ready to have children. And then I had my son, and things were actually going okay. But I found that there was something missing. Like I had all the tools, like the sort of behavior modification, and, like we weren't having a ton of behavior issues, sleeping okay through the night. But I think that, when it came to daily life, while I knew what they needed developmentally,
Mhm.
I found myself often sort of like stuck, bogged down, kind of, I would find myself feeling really lost.
Mm.
And I learned pretty quickly that it had to do with like the emotional backpack I came with. And while I started to work on that, still in the moment, it was hard to apply the things that I knew would work. And I was really fortunate enough to find both Patty Whiffler's organization, which at that time was called Parent Leaders Institute. It's now
Mhm.
called Hand in Hand Parenting, and Larry Cohen's book at the same time.
Oh, okay.
They kind of came into my life at the same time when my son was about 18 months old. And this idea that I could be light and playful and bring laughter in, it changed the entire dynamic. I just felt more connected to my child. Um, I didn't feel like I had to sort of like lay down the law. I could be silly about setting my limits, like I could, by the end of the day, when I was exhausted, I could, instead of getting harsh and harder about getting into the bath, I could say, oh my gosh, where's my little boy? I need to get some clothes off so we can take a bath, like just silly things, like adding really no brainer things into my day. I could do something as simple as like when they were going to do something that I didn't want them to do, instead of saying no, I could say, like simple little things, just even those little things. I noticed the difference in my energy, their energy. And instead of breaking the connection, it increased the connection. And, that's one of the things that Patty talks about so much in her book, Listen, and what so much of that we know now, like neuroscience wise, about how children can function best is more connection, more connection, more connection. So a lot of the things that I had learned about discipline were really about breaking connection.
Yep, absolutely.
Isolate the child, put them away. If they're misbehaving, put them away. Give them a timeout, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and so play, laughter brings connection, and you can still set limits. You can still say no. You can still, I have this amazing memory of seeing Larry Cohen. I got to pick him up at the airport for a family event that we had here in Austin years ago. And we had this big play day, and it looked like all, anything goes. There was pillow fighting and wrestling and all kinds of things. But still, Larry still had some limits. And I remember this one child coming up to him, and he can roll with almost anything. But one child thought it was a good idea. He wanted to stick his hand up Larry Cohen's pant leg, right? It was like this thing that the child had, like, how they find our buttons, and
Mhm.
this was one. And Larry just kind of put his hand on his pant leg and, nope, nope, we're not doing that. So he was still warm and light, but just like holding that, like, no, nope, 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 nope. And just that ability to be light about it, again, like it kept the connection, and they could then go on with playing. The child didn't feel ashamed. The child didn't feel embarrassed. Larry didn't have to get mad. And honestly, to me, that was mind blowing. That was so different from most of what I had seen growing up. Most of what I had seen, like this use of shame or embarrassment or guilt, like, wow, you don't have to have that.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that my biggest takeaway from that was you can parent with a light heart, but you have to, like keep that lightheartedness in your soul too. Like, I think we just get, pardon me, parents, especially parents nowadays, which we can segue into the next question, like what parents are going through right now. Um, Not just the pandemic, and some kids are still home from school. Pardon me. So parents are going through a lot of challenges. I mean, we always have, but I really feel like they're being piled on right now. And I think it's hard to keep that light heart and that playfulness.
Yep. And it's not their fault. I can't tell you how many parents come to me and say, essentially, like, what's wrong with me? I feel so bad. I don't feel playful with my child. And I wish they could know how many of the parents that I work with come to me and say that? And it really has to do with several things. One is all the pressure parents feel right now. This is even pre-pandemic, just, exhaustion, feeling like they came to parenting unprepared, financial stress, concerns about medical issues. I think we humans are meant to be raising our children in community. Mm-hmm. And we really are seeing a breakdown of that, I think parents are trying to figure that out. There's parents groups, moms groups, dads groups, people living in intentional communities. People are trying to get back together. But there's such an emphasis on this like small little nuclear family, and you're supposed to figure it all out by yourselves. And that isolation doesn't really enable us to gather the extra energy and the extra love from those around us. We're just struggling to figure things out. And just there's a really strong vice grip on parents. And, they're trying to make decisions, and they're trying to juggle childcare. There's less and less grandparents living. I mean, certainly in the pandemic, how many children were abruptly separated from grandparents that they used to spend so much time with. So those kinds of things. And then I just want to really add on to it that how many of our parents are experiencing racism, classism, sexism. And these are all things that, sometimes are really outwardly obvious. And sometimes parents have to just act as if it's fine and muster on and muster on and muster on. And that wears down. That's a kind of exhaustion that's not just, I didn't get enough sleep last night. That's a long-term exhaustion and senses of defeat. And so after everything I just said, it makes sense that it's hard to stay light. It makes sense that it's hard to play. It makes sense that it's hard to come up with fresh, light ideas. And then you sort of add to it the fact that I bet everybody who's listening to this right now could think of things that were said to them that were derogatory about play when they were little. So, stop being such a baby. Why don't you grow up? Stop being silly. Like as if silly is a bad thing, right? Patch Adams, the doctor, he figured out that silly was had such a positive impact on his patients. Yeah. But many of us were told when we were little, time to grow up, knock it off, don't fidget. All the little things of where we were moving and squirming and figuring things out and trying things out, just kind of little by little got squelched out of so many of us. And then you sort of add the gender thing where girls are supposed to or can only do these things. Boys are supposed to and can only do these things. There's just a myriad of things that came at us when we were younger that were hurtful about our zestful, joyful playfulness. Yeah. And so no wonder now here we're faced with our child, and those hurts are part of our emotional backpack. And we're sitting there saying, man, I really want to get up and go play that Barbie game that they're asking me to play, or go toss that Frisbee, but I just don't have it in me. And then there's sort of that, what's wrong with me? Yeah, I'm such a bad parent. Look at those parents over there on TV that look like they're so playful and all they're, they're all having a great time at the breakfast table. What's wrong with me? Yeah, as a parent. It's really a tricky cycle.
Yeah, it absolutely. I can't wait. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about, you've got lots of tips for how to make that transition, how to kind of muster up that lightheartedness and talk, bring play into, especially those daily challenges that we have. That's one of the things I just loved about the book too. So we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to the Awakened Parent Project, and we'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. You're listening to the Awakened Parent Project. I'm Susan Dolci, and today I'm here with parent support educator Kirsten Nottleson. I always want to say Kirsten because I'm Swedish, and so that's what I hear. Do you go by Kirsten or Kirsten?
Kirsten, yes.
Okay. Anyway, I had to ask. So we're talking about the power of play in parenting today. And we were talking before the break about how stressful it is for parents. And we're going to get into, Kirsten's got some great tips, but she's also got some great resources that she's providing us with today. So first of all, where can people find you?
Okay, so they can find me at www.handinhandworkshops, plural, and that's hand in hand, not hand and hand, workshops.com. And they can find me there. They can look up more information about the Hand in Hand Parenting organization at handinhandparenting.org. And I don't know if you wanted me to let them know, but
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm offering your guests today, if they want to get in touch with me, they can set up a 15-minute parent consult for free. And you could reach me at Kirsten at handinhandworkshops.com.
And you're also providing our listeners with a free download handout, the special time booklet. And if you go to Transformation Talk Radio and you go to the Awaken Parent Project page, there's a live link for you to go there and download that handout. And again, like the Listen book by Patty and Tasha. It's Tasha, right? Yeah.
Yep.
This, I highly recommend it. I was like blown away at its simplicity but it's just really, it's easy, not easy stuff. It's the way it's written and what they're trying to teach doesn't feel overwhelming. Mm-hmm. It feels manageable. And like, you can definitely bring these concepts into your parenting. So anyway, so thank you.
We say that the tools are simple, but doing them is hard because of all the things I just talked about.
Yes. So before the break, we were talking about stress and parents with, full lives. And so we're talking about parents and caregivers. So how can they inject more play into their lives? Because we know that, like you said, play helps us keep the connection. Especially in those times, like with one of my clients, every time we get together, we inevitably still talk about her morning routine and getting out the door on time. And we've talked about, making it playful. So like, give us some ideas for, especially during like bedtime or homework time, or do you?
Yes. So there's in the moment things, and then there's sort of like foundational or almost like preventative care. So I'll just talk a little bit about preventative or foundational care first. And that tool is the booklet that I'm going to offer to your guests. And we call it Special Time. And Special Time is where you set up a designated amount of time, whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 5 minutes, where you let your child know ahead of time, okay, I'm going to set my timer and I'm going to do whatever you want to do. And you really do your very best to do whatever they want to do. Some parents even sort of like alter the rules of their house during that time. Maybe your child is usually not allowed to jump on the bed. Well, during special time, they can. My kids would often pick things that were something they couldn't do on a regular basis, like practice lighting matches during special time. And it sort of like made it where they weren't wanting to do it at other times because they knew they could ask for special time. So during that time, you just be delighted in whatever it is. And what's really cool is that you get to find out what your child is really interested in. They're not having to feel like they have to put on a show or do something that's interesting to you. It doesn't have to be an organized game. The rules don't have to make any sense. My children would often make up ball games that had insane rules that I could completely not understand. And they set it up so there was no possible way that I was ever going to win. Like, as soon as I think I figured it out, they'd be like, yeah, but if it bounces twice on a rock, like they would just alter it up. And my job in special time was to just be like, wow, this game is amazing. How come you guys are so much smarter than me? You're braver than me. You're faster than me. So you're really sort of giving them a chance to kind of like feel powerful, reverse the roles, feel smarter, faster, braver. And then when the timer goes off, that's the end of the time. And I think what's good about that is that when you are a parent who's exhausted and tired, I might not be able to play that game for 3 hours, but I could give it my all for 10 minutes.
Mhm.
And your child feels that. It's like getting a really good, healthy salad instead of some chips for nutrition. It's like you're really pouring it in for them. So I'm going to challenge your guests to see what would happen if they tried 10 minutes of special time every day, like figured out how to make it happen. I know it seems impossible, but figure out how to for 10 minutes a day for a week, and notice not just what happens with your child, like notice afterwards. Are they a little more cooperative? Can they figure out how to ride the bike they've been struggling with? Does their homework go a little easier? Do they get into bed easier? But also notice about yourself. What do you notice about yourself? And one of the things you talked about is like morning routine. I found throughout my children's time in elementary school that when we would start to get off kilter and mornings started getting rocky, I would plug in 5 minutes of special time before we did anything. And it seemed like, oh, how can I possibly fit it in? Our mornings are so tight. But when I did the 5 minutes of special time first, not only did they cooperate more, sometimes we never even got out the door quicker. But what I noticed is when we were backing out of the driveway, the feel, like I would be like, oh, I'm not gritting my teeth. I'm not regretting how many times I've just yelled at them. I'm not, going to be thinking about like, oh, we just had another cruddy morning again all day while I'm at work. Like we were leaving the house more peacefully, happily, connected. So just also notice about yourself. Are you enjoying parenting a little bit more when you do those 10 minutes? So that's sort of a foundational thing, is doing special time. And again, you can read about it in the booklet to get a little more details about how that's going to go. But the other thing is ejecting, like say you're trying to get out the door and you're at the front door and you're having the power struggle of getting the shoes on for the 15th time this week. You can take your shoe. Oh, let me put that on for you. And you take their shoe and you're trying to put their shoe on their hand. Why doesn't this fit this morning? I don't understand. It worked yesterday. Let me try this. And you try to put it on their knee. And then you're like, maybe I could fit it on me. And you're trying to put it on your foot and it doesn't fit. And so I just sort of think about the moments when you feel yourself getting really tense or terse or irritated. Just think, how can I switch this little moment, instead of having the goal of, wow, we've got to get there, have the goal of, let me just connect for 2 minutes. What is the silly thing that I can do?
Yeah, I was just going to say, silly is the secret sauce.
Yes.
Yeah. It is. And the other thing, like, see, what I think a lot of parents don't necessarily understand is that when children aren't cooperative, it is because of a lack of connection. It is because something has either broken the connection from you, or something that they don't want to share with you. And so, and like I just said, silly is the secret sauce to rebuild that, to just get them to open up, to then maybe share about something that might be going on at school, or with a friend. And it's amazing how it works. It's like, if I had known it when my kids were little, like I was a stay-at-home mom, so I played a lot. Hated playing the Barbies, so I get that. I get that. But I guess I kind of knew instinctually that barking orders at them wasn't going to make them do anything. I don't want orders barked at me. That's not going to make me do anything faster or be cooperative. And so knowing that we're a team and we're going to get this done and we're going to have fun doing it, I think it made a world of difference in getting my kids out the door, my 3 girls out the door. And they were all about the shoes. So
Sounds like you had some good intuition and you had lucky, your girls were lucky.
Well, thank you. I was lucky. I think I felt very blessed to be able to stay home and do that work, because not everybody has the capacity to do that. So I feel really blessed to share that time with them. And I had a mom support group, and I was in a community, the community we lived in was super, super supportive. And my husband and I, when we talk about it, we always refer to it as Camelot, because it was just this like magical land. And it was just delightful and happy, and we had great friends, and then we had to move, but that's a different story. So we're coming up on another break. When we come back, we're going to keep talking about the power of play. I'm here today with Kirsten Nottleson. We're going to be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. You're listening to the Awaken Parent Project. Today, I'm speaking with parent support specialist, Kirsten Nottleson. You can find Kirsten at handinhandparenting.com. And if you go to the webpage for, I'm sorry, did I say parent hand in hand workshops? .com. Sorry. And if you go to the Transformation Talk Radio page for my show, the Awaken Parent Project, there is a live link for the special time booklet download that we just talked about in the earlier break. How if we can give our kids it, and it doesn't have to be, like when one of my clients we were talking about special time, and she was thinking like full on like dates. And that's great if you can afford it and if you have the time to do that. But it doesn't have to be a whole day with just one kid. And like when you're talking about how some of the house rules are broken, like whenever I would go out for an evening with girlfriends or my, women's club or whatever, my husband did that. It was like, we get to break all the rules when mommy's not here. And then you're like, yay. And then he would videotape them breaking all the rules, like, playing dress up and throwing clothes all over the place and dancing. So that keeps the connection. Like, so if it wasn't just me, it doesn't have to be just the mom. It doesn't have to be just the dad. Like as a family, we had that special time and that playful time. But we were talking about, we want to talk about brain science. So I'm gonna let you take it from there.
Okay, great. So I think that I wanted to talk about this with Susan because oftentimes parents are under the impression, and we're taught that. I mean, I was taught that when I was getting my education degree, that you don't want to reinforce negative behavior. And that meant paying attention to it, noticing it, giving your child attention for it. And a lot of what I just said sounds like I'm reinforcing negative behavior. Like they're complaining about not getting their shoes on and I move into play. Geez. Well, what we know about brain science is that a large part of our child's brain is wired to look for connection, look for safety. And are things okay? Are things not okay? Is mom angry? Is dad checked out? Is my world a safe place? And that's true for us too. Our limbic brain looks for those things too. We look for nonverbal signals to let us know, are we okay? Are we not okay? If things look like they are not okay, somebody's super angry, if we've been hurt, embarrassed, humiliated, our brain says, uh-oh, danger, danger, warning, warning. And it starts to sort of shut down into that real primitive fight or flight mode. And if that's sort of a chronic way that we're living in a lot of stress and overwhelm, and our child is picking up on that, our child is going to be going down into that lower level primitive brain, getting into fights, just in sort of protection mode versus growth mode. But when our limbic brain senses a sense of safety, security, love, affection, laughter, connection, then our prefrontal cortex, which is here behind our forehead, then that can come online. And that's the part of our brain which a lot of people refer to as where the executive thinking is. That's where we can pay attention, they can cooperate, they can learn, they can have impulse control, they can have good judgment, they can be reasonable. All of those things are sort of how we want our children to be. Like that's how they're going to do better with their siblings. That's how they're going to do well at school. And frankly, when they're in that place, it's better and easier for us to parent. So there's sort of this interesting cycle where if we're safe, relaxed, connected with our child senses that, their prefrontal cortex can come online, they will function better. We are less stressed because parenting is a little bit easier. So play is you can see where play would enable a child to feel more connected and safe.
Mhm. In the Jai world, we call that co-regulation, because depending on the age of the child, they're not capable of self-regulating. Like you said, they know that something in the environment is off, and they don't feel safe. And so it's our job to be that anchor, to find our calm and share that with our child so they know it's okay. Mommy's not going to lose it. I'm not going to flip my lid. You're going to be able to have all of your big emotions and share, do whatever you need to do. And I'm going to hold the space for you. And it's fascinating to me to see when we anchor, when a parent does that, how it impacts the child, how you can kind of see them, even that they might have their full on tantrum. They're going to have their outburst, whatever, but they can do it knowing they're in a safe space and they're not being judged, and they're not, being told to go to their room or stop crying or, not validated. So brain science fascinates me. It's the one unit that I keep rereading over and over and over again because there's so much there. Also, I know I'm talking a lot, but the other thing that I think we do wrong as parents is we also, we have, the expectations are off based on the brain science. And we think, well, they should know how to do this by now. Because they've done it once doesn't mean they can do it again and again and again, just based on the development of their brain. So I have a plan, I have a mission that before anybody has kids, they need to learn about attachment science, brain science, emotional intelligence, and I have a fourth. Why can't I think of it? Anyway, I think every person who's going to have a child needs to understand brain science and attachment science. Off my soapbox.
Wouldn't that be lovely?
Wouldn't it be like, because I feel like if we can, because when you have, even if it's a newborn, they're the only issue you have with infants, right, is like sleep issues, right? And I think that's a whole topic. Hopefully I will have somebody on the show. I've got somebody lined up talking about how, the whole cry it out method is bad, sleep training bad. I totally agree. But if we could have parents understand the basics of the science, then that makes going into the parenting part of it, I think, just a lot easier. So.
Well, that's part of what Hand in Hand Parenting is trying to do, is like we're a nonprofit and we want to make this available to as many people as possible. So if you get to check out that website, if your people get to check out that website, there's dozens and dozens of articles you can read for free about anything from sleep to what do we do when we lose it. Like you were saying, like the co-regulation. Okay, so what do I do in the moment when I have 3 children climbing on my legs and I'm not co-regulated and I feel like I can't be that calm parent? And I'm really a believer in, like, there are times when I can go, take a deep breath and get myself to calm down. But there are times when I actually have to kind of like exert and get out with that energy, or else I can't, like the deep breath is just not working in that moment because it feels like they're on me, I know that there's parents out there that can completely relate to this feeling. So I really like to think of like, have some emergency ideas to shift those gears. And one of them is, especially when you have really younger children who just cannot say, hey, mommy needs 5 minutes. Can you go play in the other room for a minute? Like when they cannot do that, laying on the floor. Just get your body on the ground and lay down. And whatever is happening, it's pretty amazing and magical how even where it feels super stressful, young children, when you lay on that ground and you feel the earth underneath you, they'll just end up coming and climbing on you, but you're just letting yourself feel the earth to
Mm.
hold you. And it's amazing how that can shift gears. Something else that I did when I found myself stressed out, overwhelmed, very early on, I gave my children permission at any moment when it seemed like they heard my voice getting strident, or like they could tell, they would say, "Mom, you're making the line." And I'd be like, "I'm not making the line." And I was making the line. And they say, "Mom, you have to say it." And that was my cue that I had to say Cowabunga as many times as it took for me to get to the point of laughing. So it was our
I
code.
love it. That is
And it was like the
awesome.
pause word. And at first I'd be like, "I don't want to say it," but I would say it. And sure enough, like you can't really say that word more than 3 or 4 times without busting into a smile. So that was really helpful. I also had a few songs that are almost impossible for me to not dance to, like some key, like, what's the songs from some of the songs from Saturday Night Fever. I would put those on, Walking on Sunshine, like whatever that song is that just like lights you up, like turn it into a dance party. Whatever chaos is happening, unless there's blood being drawn, you can probably pause and dance for a minute.
Yes,
Might feel like your brain might tell you there's no possible way I can stop and pause right now, but probably you can.
absolutely. That's a wonderful tip. I love the cowabunga idea. Or like as you were saying it, I just remember were other words that used to make me crack up, just like peanut butter and bananas. Like just saying it would make me laugh. So that's that. And I love the fact that you, because I would say this to my kids too. It's like, if I wanted my kids to speak respectfully to me, just with kindness, then if I was being demanding or disrespectful or in my tone or in what I was saying, they could say, I don't feel like that's very kind or respectful, like to call me out on it, because we're a family, we're a unit, we're here and we're creating this bond. And my needs are just as important as their needs, and their needs are just as important as my needs. And so I think if we're going to have a house that is full of respect, then that means respect for everybody and everybody's feelings and everybody's needs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, my,
We
my
have one more break.
16-year-old will still make me yell it out the window. Driving, "Mom, open your window." Fine. Next thing you know, both of us are yelling Cowabunga out the windows down the street.
I'm gonna keep that one. I'm writing that down for my clients, because that's a great one, because it could be, like you said, it could be just as simple as a word. It doesn't have to be, and it just lightens everything. So we have one more break. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Awakened Parent Project. Hey, everybody, welcome back. I'm Susan Dolci. This is the Awakened Parent Project, and I'm talking with Kirsten Nottleson. She's a parent support specialist. And today we're talking about the power and magic of play. In our previous segment, we were talking about Cowabunga, how sometimes just a simple word can shift your energy and your stress levels. So you also want to talk about what parents can do to like shift that, to if they're not playful and they just have a hard time accessing that part of themselves.
Yes. Yeah, it's so important. Just, I talked before about how many parents come to me and say, "What's wrong with me? I'm a terrible parent. Why can't I play?" And I just want you to know that you are not alone if you feel like that. And that um, one thing that I want to say that people can do, and it's talked a lot about in the Listen book by Patty. You can also find articles about listening partnership on the website, but it's called Listening Partnership. And this is where you get to have somebody pay attention to you. So you can get together with somebody you trust, feel safe with, and you each agree upon an amount of time, 5 minutes each, 10 minutes each, 20 minutes each, and you set the timer, and one person gets to talk while the other person just listens. This is not a time for making any suggestions, comments, telling your own story. You're just a listener. And the other person who's being listened to really just gets to, we'd call it venting, but just gets to let it rip. All the things that have been hard or scary or that they're worried about. This is where you get to complain about the game that, the Barbie game that you're like, please do not make me play Barbies one more time, or whatever it might be. For me, when I first started doing special time with my son, he wanted to smash Tonka trucks together for the entire time. He didn't want me to make a garage. He didn't want to make up character names. He just wanted to go. And if I deviated from that, it was over, like the play was over. So I got to use my listening partnership to be like, please, no more Tonka trucks. And then after I kind of complained about it a little with another adult, not my child, I could go back to my child and be fresh about it. I could be more present. So listening partnership is a great way to get a recharge. Were you going to say something, Susan?
Well, I was just going to say, I don't want you to forget your thought, but that, like, now in my family, now that my kids are all adults, we kind of have a code, not a code, we have a practice. And when they call or they're texting, they're like, I just want to vent. Like, they'll tell me when they want advice or when they want to vent. And then it's just a lot of, yeah, and it's empathy and just listening to them, just spill it. And that somebody's just listening to them, and then they feel so much better.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And oftentimes parents will cry or rage or just get to do the things they get to do. And, parents are a group of people that people out in the world feel like they have the right to just come in and interject. You're in the grocery store line and somebody's ready. Instead of saying, what can I do to help? So often people are like, well, this is what I did when that happened, and my child would never, it's like, it's not terribly helpful when a parent feels stuck. I love to find ways to bring play into my own life. I would skip a lot by myself in public places. And I just challenge you to try it and see if it does not lift your heart up just immediately. So another thing that you can do is make a list in the times when you're recharged, because it's hard to find them when you're stressed. But when you're recharged, make a list of things that do bring you joy, whether it's, just painting, drawing, singing, things that help you release tension. I love the idea of every once in a while going and throwing a dozen eggs at the trees. Or for a little while there, I was really into going to the batting cages. Just finding some things. The other thing I suggest is doing adult special time, which means that when I'm talking about special time, you don't have your child give it to you. It's really important to say that. It goes one way. It's not your child's job to play what you want to play. It's really goes one way. But you could find a friend that you really love and say, hey, let's trade 10 minutes or 20 minutes and do something with the attention of the other person. So you might have that person, say you are really dreading an email that you have to write, or say you have a drawer that you've been wanting to organize, but you really don't want to. You could say, come in either on Zoom. You can even bring your laptop into your kitchen and do it on Zoom, and you're organizing. And the person who's giving you adult special time just says, wow, you're so good at organizing. I love the way you do that. Wow. Look at that email you're writing. You're so smart with words. I love where you put your periods, they're just cheering you on. And it sounds really silly, but boy, when I get that sort of attention, it's that much easier for me to give it to my child. If my well is run dry, there's nothing at the bottom of it. They're clanking at an empty bottom. And so I'm trying to think of ways for me to fill up my well. So when my children, it's their job to scoop out of my well, like I'm there to nurture them and help them. If my well's empty, it's empty. So anything that you can do is to fill up that well is good. We talk a lot about self-care, and my good friend Blake just recently said to me, he talked about relational care.
Mm,
Because self-care so often means going off by yourself, like
yeah.
writing in your journal, having your own bath. Those things are lovely. But we know, especially now in this pandemic where we feel so isolated, we know that our brains function best when we have that relational care. So think about ways you can pull friends in to do things that you might, when I ask you, Susan, to come and, you know, listen to me while I'm like learning how to play guitar, that gives you permission to ask something from me. It's a mutual thing if we're taking turns doing it for each other.
Yeah, I love that. I have a cheerleader. Her name's Leone. We have a show on Thursdays. So I know what you mean. Like that's, it's to have somebody like that who, just validates you and has your back and just, cares. And it really does make a world of difference. Like she is my self-care. So
Relational care.
relational care. Yes, she is my relational care. And I cannot wait for next Thursday to be on a show with her again.
Mm-hmm.
We are coming up at the end of our show. I want to make sure everybody knows where they can find you again. You are, so it's Kirsten Nottleson at handinhandworkshops.com. And you are offering a free 15-minute parent consultation about how your child and how she can be of support to you. I said your email. So if you go there, you can schedule time with Kirsten right on her website. And if you go to the TTR website and my show, there is a link to the special time booklet download. That's a free download that she's offering. I've read it. It's awesome. Special time makes all the world of difference. We've spent a lot of time talking about that today. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I am a certified Jai parent coach. And if you would like to find out more about my 12-week signature program, you can go to susandolci.com. And I want everybody to remember that parenting is not about perfection. I hope we all know that. We've said that all over and over again, but it's about presence. And I believe it's about allowing your children to be your awakening. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thank you, Kirsten. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you for being a part of the Awakened Parent Project. My goal with this show is to help us all become more compassionate and engaged parents by diving into the many techniques and ideologies of the conscious parenting community. This is a safe space to embark on a practical and spiritual journey of self-exploration and expand our ideas about conscious parenting. Got thoughts, questions, ideas? I want to hear from you. Reach out to me if there's a topic you'd like to hear covered on the show, or to share your conscious parenting story by visiting susandolci.com.